Gerald, I think we can turn off the lights now. Turn off the lights, please. Thanks. Okay, good. Good evening and welcome to our Friday night program at the Beaver Island Historical Society. I'm Floss and our program tonight is going to be on life in the Lighthouse. This started out as a project. I was going to write an article for the someday to be published, volume 4, the Journal of Beaver Island History, on the lighthouses. And Shirley gave me a series of letters written from the lighthouse at the South End from 1906 to 1909, and I plan to incorporate them into the article. Well, be that as may, the article has not been written, but it's been thought about. And when we had hoped to have someone from the Lighthouse Keepers Association of the Great Lakes come and speak to us tonight, and then heard nothing from him, and Phyllis Moore, our very able chairman of the museum week, called me in Massachusetts and said, I think you're going to have to do it. And it was May, and we had apple blossoms, and spring was finally there, and I said, sure, why not? Well, anyhow, here we are, and I just have to tell you, this is a work in progress, and I would not have progressed very far without quite a few people. First of all, Eve Bouvet, who transcribed the letters from the originals and typed them up. Shirley Gladish, who took pictures of things to illustrate the letters tonight, and Phil Gregg and Mary Gillingham, who are Pa or Dad and your ever-loving mother in these letters. So I want to thank them for helping this work in progress. These letters came to us from a Dr. Whitehead from Ann Arbor, and they were written, as I said, from 1906 to 1909 to their son Louis, who was a student at East Lansing, and then went from there to Pennsylvania and New York and finally Washington, D.C. There's lots of parental advice in these letters. We found it very wonderful that I don't think he took any of the advice, but he seemed to advance in his career throughout the letter. But, most of us are parents, we understand these things. But he realized that these letters were important and that they should be saved about the life in the lighthouses, because it was already the turn of the century and the modern day was approaching, and this was a world that was not going to be in existence too much longer. The lighthouse at the South End was built, was built in 1851. It was the third lighthouse. Oh, sorry. Screwed up. I have to turn this on. There we go. It was the third lighthouse built in the Great Lakes. It's a little difficult to see, but those are the various lighthouses in Lake Superior, Michigan, and Lake Huron, where you see the writing that were in existence in these lakes. The lighthouse service itself was separate and had very rigid rules and regulations about which I'll tell you later. It was taken over by the Coast Guard in 1938, and there are those who say that it's never quite reached the grandeur that it had then. Be that as may, most of these lighthouses have been abandoned or are being renovated through a Lighthouse Keepers Association, and we have managed to maintain the lighthouse thanks to Charlevoix County and some other people at the South End, and it's being used by the Charlevoix County School District. Our characters tonight are the family of Medad Spencer and Mrs. Spencer, as I say, otherwise known as Mother, or your ever-loving mother. Louis, the son who receives the letters. There is another son, Bird, who is married to M, and they seem to be having an ever-growing family back down in Unica, where the Spencers come from, and where they own a farm and are saving money by staying in the lighthouse service, probably a little longer than Dad Spencer really should be in the service. It's a very rugged life, as you'll hear. Then there's Ned and Len, and his son John, who's the oldest, from whom they have not heard in 20 years. So this is the theme. You'll be hearing about this family and who's sick and who's well and what's happened and so forth. But I hope you will begin to feel the way we do, that we are part of the lives of the Spencer family as they live in the Lighthouse at the south end of the island. Here is a map of Beaver Island showing the ownership of most of the land. The Lighthouse, as you know, is way down at the south end. Most of the land and a lot of it that we'll be talking about tonight, the lumbering in these letters, up on the west side. And I have a better map that Shirley just got for me in a slide to show you where these various lumber camps were. This is a very watered, just map of the exact section on Beaver Island where the lighthouse is. That was in 1850 or something, rather, that map was drawn. This is a map of the lighthouse area showing where the docks are and so forth. And I'll just take a second to show you. There were all kinds of docks down here. Boats came in all along here. Gravel and Stony Beach. This is the lighthouse up here. This is the Fox Signal house that they had proposed way back in 1890, but which was not built till about 1914. So when they talk about the fog light, it's a building about over here that they're hacking over and fire up with coal to turn on the fog light. And this is an important part of the job of being in this is the Fox Signal station, actually, being the lighthouse keeper. Here we have the lighthouse as it looked. Phil says it's later than the turn of the century because of the size of the trees. I bow to his judgment. But this certainly is around the turn of the century when this picture was taken of probably the lighthouse families that lived there. There was a keeper, an first assistant keeper and a second assistant keeper and their children. Just a close-up. This is sort of, I thought, reflected the loneliness somehow of living down there. Mother and child. This is the copy of the pay sheet. At the top we have Medad Spencer. He earned $600 per annum. Next assistant was Dominic Gallagher. Dominic earned, I think, $480. And then we had Jim McCormick, who was the second assistant lighthouse keeper. And, well, his pay varied, I believe, according to his behavior. That's about the way I could figure out. But these are the characters involved. I wish we had pictures of all these people, but we only have Dominic Gallagher, who came back, was an island man, and this is Dominic. Long after he was down at that lighthouse, Dominic Gallagher. And this is young Jack Cole, who lives next to Cole.
Ray Cole.
Jack Cole.
Ray.
Pardon?
It's Ray Cole.
Is it Ray? Sorry. Ray Cole. Sorry. And he lives next door to the print shop museum, and did the show me every night. When they talk about taking a ride into town on the railroad, this is the way they went to town. Actually, this is a jolly party of harbor folk who've come out probably to go berry picking down around Miller's Marsh. I think now we are ready to begin our stories with letters. The first one is dated May 6, 1906. And this is Medad Spencer writing to son Louis, who is still at East Lansing.
I think your mother is better than she was when I came to the island. I have not yet commenced my garden, just ready to plow. We are also about ready to paint. Well, about that shift of yours, of course, I know that bridge company is one of the largest of the large concerns of the country, and it will probably be for your interest to go there. But you know you must begin at the bottom rung of the ladder, and it might as well be at $75 as 60. It all helps to pay board. But remember, even there, you are only on probation until you have demonstrated your ability. Yours, Dad. Your mother will write a little.
Well, Louis, my dear boy, oh, how I wish you was here so we could have a good talk about your going to Pennsylvania. It is perhaps the best thing that you can do. But oh, I hate to have you go so far from home. How long do you think you'll be gone? And do you know how much your board will be? You want to find out all about it before you go if you can. It is very lonesome here this summer. We ain't heard from the boys since we came away. I suppose they are busy with spring work. They will both have to milk 13 cows this summer. We're going to have some new neighbors. They built a shanty just this side of the creek where you went fishing. There's 2 young ladies in the family. I have seen one of them. Think I shall like them. DePel has bought out Sterling, and he has moved down to the old camp, and his sister is coming up where he lived. Sterling is married and left the island. He married his hired girl. She's a cousin of Dominic's. Write and let us know how much money you will need, and your father will send it to you next month. Now write soon and often. It is so lonesome here. Goodbye from your ever-loving mother.
On May 29th, Dad writes,
We are as well as usual. Got my garden well started, and the strawberries are coming nicely. Raspberries not so good. Got twice the amount I had last year. Hope I'll have as good luck. Did not hear from the boys in some time. Guess they're busy. Everything is doing as usual here. The bark men are hard at it, and so are the cedar men. The railroad is up to Buffalo's logs. Now drawing them. Have had to build a new engine all over. Dad.
Buffalo logs. Buffalo is Buffalo Malloy. He was called Buffalo Malloy, some say, because he had a big, bushy haircut, or non-haircut, and a walrus mustache, and sort of looked like a buffalo. And there are others who said he got the name because he went west for a few years and said he shot some buffalo. But that's Buffalo Malloy. Thank you. And when, always like to get a laugh from the front row friends. On June 11th, we have a letter from Mother.
Well, Louis, we are as busy as the famous cat that your dad talks so much about. The men are here, came the first day of the month. Have got the dock about done and are at work on the walks. Commence this p.m. Are going to make a 3-foot cement walk inside of the fence. Then they will build a boardwalk around the signal and finish the walk down to the dock. Comfort and Thomas are both here. We have 6 men in all. As soon as they get the cement laid, Comfort and 2 other of the men will go to the harbor to work. The rest will finish here. So you wrestled again and came out ahead. Well, I'm glad of it. Still, I would not wrestle anymore, as you are liable to get hurt and might be injured for life. I saw your picture in the Saturday Free Press. Say, if they put it in the record, I wish you would send us one. Enclosed is a small present. I want you to get a book with it. When you graduate, I wish I could send something more worthwhile, but I ain't got it. And your dad thinks he can't spare any now, unless you need it to meet your expenses. He says if you do, don't be afraid to let him know and he will send it. I got 1 picture postal put in the album. If you have sent any more, I ain't got them. Have been looking for your picture, but it ain't come yet. Well, I must close and get supper, and I tell you now, these men have their appetite with them all the time. Say, if you can get an excursion ticket to Charlevoix, I wish you would come out here and see us. It seems a long time after leaving Michigan before you will be back again. Your dad says he will pay half the expenses if you will come. Write soon and often from your affectionate mother.
One of the duties of the lighthouse keeper is to take care of the working parties who come and do things like the sidewalk around the lighthouse and refurbish the lighthouse itself or work on the docks and so forth, which means that they have to be put up at the lighthouse and Mrs. Lighthouse Keeper has to feed them. This is part of the keeper's position, to say nothing of Mother's position. On June 20th, Mother writes again.
I suppose this is a big day with you and one long to be remembered. How I wish I could have seen you, but at least I can congratulate you heartily. And I must tell you how glad I am that you have succeeded honorably. And now it will depend on yourself what use you make of it. But I have no fears, but you will make a success of your life. Say, I wish you would come out here. We want to see you so bad, and it does seem a long time to wait until you were done there. Well, we have new cement walks here now and a new dock. Makes a big difference with the looks of things. We have had 6 men and part of the time 7 for the last 3 weeks. But they are all gone with 3 and they will go next Monday. I shall be glad when they go, as it makes lots of work. Oh, I forgot to tell you that we're having a daily mail here on the island now.
Isn't that great? 1906. July 3rd, Dad writes.
Well, Lou, your last from Agricultural College reached us a few days ago, and I'm directing to Ambridge, PA. Well, we are as well as usual. We've had the engineers men here for 3 weeks and 3 days, and your mother was down with a quinsy, and I've had to put on my apron and do the cooking for the crowd. Comfort and Thomas were here with a gang. They send their best wishes. It has not rained a good soaker here this spring, but my garden looks fine, what came up. Sweet corn is nice, strawberries fine, just coming on as big as lumps of horse manure. No cranberries this year, too dry. Huckleberries dried up. They've got the railroad into Buffalo's logs and they're building a branch east from the sand cut north of the big camps. The new track will go east as far as the big burning on section 28, 38 north and 10 west. Nearly everybody has left the woods to take in the 4th. Jim went this morning to the harbor with a boat and took his family. We'll have a gay old time, probably. They all do here. No dry spot on this island. All wet. I have not heard from the boys in more than a month. Don't know how they're coming. Write and give us your impressions of things there. Yours truly, Dad.
I assume you know what they mean by no dry spots here on the island. Anyone who doesn't know, raise your hand and I will explain. Aha. We're all old enough to know what that means. Okay, and Mother has her version of what happened over the 4th, written July 10th.
We ain't heard from the boys in a long time. I suppose they're busy with their farm work, but if it is as dry there as it is here, I'm afraid they won't have much to harvest. Jim went to town the 3rd and just got back. He said there was no wind, so he couldn't come back before. We had a fair wind here for 3 days after he went. He took his family with him, but he said there was no wind there. Write soon and oblige your mother.
Jim is Jim McCormick, the 2nd assistant lighthouse keeper. His wife is Mary, and her father is the keeper at the lighthouse in the harbor. Dominic is Dominic Gallagher, and his wife is Pidgey. And Pidgey is Pidgey Roddy. And these are island families. The McCormicks and the Walklers, who is the lighthouse keeper in the harbor, are not island families. But definitely Dominic and Pidgey are related to many of the people in the island. On July 22nd, we hear,
Glad to hear from you and to hear that you like your new place so well. For the next to having you at home is to know that you are doing well. But oh, we missed your visit so much. We had a nice rain last night and this morning, and we needed it bad, as we have had no rain of any account since the last of May, and everything was drying up. There's very little hay, and the pea crop is nearly a failure on the island this year. Our garden is looking fairly well, and this rain will help it out. Dominic is sick. They are down to her mother's, and his cousin Frank Gallagher is here taking his place. Frank says that he worked with you last summer and the year before. Says he would like to see you, is Big Owen's son. We're looking for the government vote every day. It is late this year. Now, Louie, I want you to write every week, for if they go to town and we don't get a letter, from that time seems long before they go again. It is such a lonesome place here that about all the pleasure we take is of getting letters. So don't fail to do your share to make it as pleasant as you can for us. Your affectionate mother.
But I'm just going to put back a picture of Dominic, third from the left. And folks again. The inspectors, the government vote she's talking about is the inspector's vote. And the lighthouse had to be inspected every year by the people over the lighthouse keepers. And it was very rigorous inspection, so they had to have the place spotless at all times until the inspectors came. And so this is always a worry. When are the inspectors coming? Are they late this year? And so forth. And the sort of the message gets around the lake that, well, they're at Frankfurt this week, maybe they'll be such and such a place next week. And so you can imagine that they are on tenterhooks about the inspectors. On August 9th, affectionately yours, Mother writes again.
About going to Nunavut this coming winter, we are not sure yet until the inspector's boat comes. For myself, I would about as soon stay here. There's so much work to do there with all the children that I don't like to go to stay all winter. If we could come home in 3 or 4 weeks, it wouldn't be so bad. But 4 months is a long time. Bert's folks will have a new baby before that time. Of course, I like the children. They are all smart and all that. But, oh dear, the noise and the work. Still, we may go. I'm glad that you are doing as well as you are, but hope for your sake you may pass your exam in October. If you do, are you sure of a position, or do you have to wait for a vacancy? We've had fine rain today. This makes 3 rains in 3 weeks, and our garden is booming. Sweet corn from 7 to 8 feet high, all silked out, and everything else fine. I wish you was coming home to help us eat it. I am really in hopes that you will come next year. If we are here, we will try and have a lot of garden stuff for you to eat if you do come. From your affectionate mother.
The garden is not only for their own benefit, but also it is part of the lighthouse keeper's duties to provide fresh vegetables for the people who work in the lighthouse. Alas, Mother gets sick, and in September, Father writes.
Dominic was off to the harbor sick with cholera. Your mother has been down with the same thing for 2 weeks. She has been very bad, but is now on the mend slowly. Can't do anything yet. I have to do all the work. I do not think she'll do much more this fall. She thinks we must stay on the island this winter, but I won't hear to it. She is so poorly. And the inspector told me I might go or stay. Do as I please. I can get John Green to look after the place for about $15. He'll be in his shanty again this winter. Now, I don't think it advisable to stay. Your mother's health is so bad. Well, we had a dandy garden this year. We have been eating sweet corn for more than a month, cucumbers to burn for more than a month, and tomatoes galore, as big as my fist, and all we can eat fine and right. We'll have fine squash and beans to give away, cabbage, good. Had some strawberries. There was no cranberries, too dry. Did not go after huckleberries, too hot. It's been a fright here and very dry, but I'll bet I have a better garden than anyone else on the island. I have hustled it all summer. This lumber company had built 2 miles of new road this year and will build 2 more next, out to the south whip of the island to get that timber along the west road. They will go from the big camps out across Miller Marsh and make 2 branches on it, west 1 and southwest, to the end of the timber. The new shanty will work about 30 men this winter on cedar and hemlock. They have now cut nearly 1 million hemlock. We'll begin skidding next week. They've not heard from home in nearly a month. Guess they're busy. Not think of any more to write. Yours truly. frost yet.
This is Miller's Marsh down here, and they're bringing the railroad back. The lumber camp, there's one up here, 5 ways now, the airport, that's the big camp, or camp number 1. Camp number 3 is over here by Green Lake, this area. Camp number 5, which they built towards the end of these letters, is down here near Miller's Marsh. And camp 4 is right here, just up over the hill, you come around Ironmore, the road, and then you go up inland, and it goes up over a hill. So that is where camp 4 was, and that is in the Softwood area. These are the hardwood areas over here. Mother, cholera which is ravaging the people in the refugee camps in Zaire, was no stranger to people here on Beaver Island, and this is what Mother is down with. And Dominic is going off to the harbor to be is sick there, and I guess taking his family with him. So Dad writes again in October.
Your mother is gaining slowly and will be all right in a week or 2. She now begins to want to clean house, but can't, and she gets rattled. But we'll come around all right, give her a little time. I'm all right, and eat well, and sleep well, and I don't worry. Now about coming out this winter, I intend to come out. I have made a deal with John W. Green to look after the place. He'll be in his shanty again this winter. The inspector said I could go if I wished to, and I don't care to stay. Your mother is so bad. I shall not get away before about the 20th of December. Yours truly, Dad. October 7th, first frost, very light.
Okay. A month later, Dad writes again.
Well, Louis, I suppose you think we're slow about answering your letters, but we don't get a chance to send them very often. We are as well as usual, only my back a little lame. I got cold a few days ago sawing wood. I have all my garden truck in the cellar. Got 8 bushel tomato, lots of beets, plenty of cabbage, some bagels, some onions, but no apples yet. Your mother is bound to stay here this winter. She says we blowed in too much money last winter. Well, everything goes on as usual here, only Pidgey has a big boy, weighed 11 pounds when born. Dominic is as pleased as a cat with 2 tails. The mill has to have from 18 to 20 cars of logs every day, and DePeal has to hustle. He says he wants about 30 more men, but can't get them yet till the fishing is over. Say they are getting lots of fish now. Trout is worth 7 cents a pound at this time, and you bet when they get from 2,000 to 7,000 pounds at a haul, boy, it counts money fast. In fact, everyone is on the jump here. Well, bye-bye, Dad.
And Mother is well enough to add a P.S.
My dear boy, as your father has been writing, I will just put in a word. I don't want you to worry about my health. I am on the mend. And say about that book, I have looked all over for it, but don't find it. Is it a bound book? How I wish he was here. I get so lonesome. Pidgey is gone, and Mary never comes in, but I can live without her. Now, right soon is about all I live for is to hear from you boys. And if I don't get a letter every time I go to town, I am so disappointed. Your ever-loving Mother.
Well, it looks as though they're going to stay there for the winter. And Mother writes on a little later in November.
About going home this winter. Well, say the inspector was here 2 weeks ago. He said we had better stay here this winter. And I told him if we was as well when closing time comes now, we would stay. But if your father or I should be sick again, we would not. He said all right, but he hoped we would, as he did not like to have us go. I think your dad intends to stay, as he is busy cutting wood and has got nearly everything in the eating line for winter. Green's folks are expected here today. He was here Monday. He said that if he was in our place, he could not leave here. Said last winter that there was 2 men lived in that shanty between here and his place, and someone went in there in the daytime and stole a new pair of pants and jackknife and a little money and all they could find besides a number of other things, and he did not consider it safe to go away. Got a letter from Lynn. He said he wrote to you the same time. Guess that was our John, all right, that Harry wrote about.
On December 2nd, Dad says.
Well, Louis, we got your letter, wrote 2 weeks ago today, found us well as usual. In fact, I think I feel better than I have for a long time. But your mother kicks about rheumatiz, but I know she is better than for a long time past. And honestly, I think we'll be better here than down home, tramping from one place to another. The house is warm, the beds are good, and I have lots of wood on hand. And so far, it has not been cold. Grass is green yet, feed good, had 2 or 3 little snow flurries, not enough to sound the signal. Froze hardest last night. It has his fault. I got a letter from Bert a few days ago. They had another kid. Well, they all do it, even the cats. I am thinking about going to town during the week. The gang have come to work at the iron ore shanties, bunching logs. We'll have a big crowd as soon as they can get them. Now we will stay here this winter if we do not get sick. Well, bye-bye, Dad.
And Ma adds,
We are all prepared for a long winter. We got a bushel of apples the other day. Had to pay $3.50 for them. They are good. They are Greening and Baldwin's. Wish you was here to help eat them. Butter is 30 cents a pound and eggs are 40 cents a dozen. I don't use many, you bet. Well, we are well. I would like it if one of you boys was at home. About John, his partner's name is Sherman Lofty. He was at Fairbanks when Harry saw him getting supplies. Don't know whether that was his post office address or not, but your dad wrote him at that place. He put a self-addressed envelope in it, also $1 in money asking him to write to us. We also wrote a letter to Johnny in care of Lofty. Put on the envelope, if not called for in 6 months, to return them to the island. If he don't get the letter, I am in hopes of hearing from him through Harry. I think we will have everything or nearly, I think we have everything or nearly so that we shall need this winter. Did I tell you that Minus girls both have anemia? But they was on the game when I last heard from them, Mom.
Johnny has been spotted, obviously, out in Alaska. It was not uncommon for young men to take off for the west and northwest and just disappear for a few years. But 18 years has been a long time, and so they're glad to hear at least that he is alive and well. Beaver Island, December 13th.
We expect to close the station either Saturday or Monday. Well, we are all ready. Your father has just finished putting the wood in the wood house. We have everything in the eating line except fresh meat when we have a chance to get it. Don't think that will be very often. Say, there's been more boats passed close in here within the last 2 weeks than in any 2 months during the season. Sunday night there was 5 out there at one time. Looked as if one could throw a stone aboard them. The day before there were 7 out there at once. It wouldn't have been many at the point, but it was a lot for this place. There were some very large ones. One that the men said was fully 600 feet long. That was close in, but there won't be many more. I sometimes wonder how we are going to get through this winter. For me, it won't be much worse than it is all the time. Or wouldn't be if we could get our mail, as I ain't been away from here since spring. But your father will have the full benefit of being on Beaver Island. So far, he has been to the harbor every month and stayed 1 or 2 nights. But he can't now, for I won't stay here all alone. But then there's 3 camps that he can visit. Marl's is farther away, but he can walk it. Oh, say John Green was here the other day and brought us a gallon pail of honey. It was nice. Your dad tried to make him take pay for it, but he wouldn't. Said we was welcome to it. I wish I had something to send you for Christmas, but I can't get anything here. We will close the station at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The boats still keep going by. Thursday we counted 18. There must have been more yesterday. There was 3 that we saw. Today so far haven't seen but 1, but it's early yet, only 10 o'clock. Say, Louie, it is lonesome here coming Christmas. I miss you so. There ain't an hour in the day but I think of it and wish you was here. You will surely come home next summer, won't you? Right soon. From Mother to Louie, goodbye.
The lighthouse inspector is the one who decides when the keepers may leave the station. The criteria is they should keep the light going as long as there's ships going by, but they cannot stay too long to endanger their trips back to the mainland. In other words, they have to sort of guess on the ice floes when it's time to go. But it seems that just about every year they close down the lighthouse around the 10th of December. They also have the option of staying for the winter, as you can see. If that is the case, that someone has to be up, since they are staying there and the lighthouse is open and it's government property, they have to stay there. Someone has to be around to see that no one is pilfering, if that's the right word. Well, Christmas came and went, and on the 2nd of December, Dad writes to Louis,
The loggers are piling up logs, and the railroad is putting in about 20 cars per day when not broke down. I was down over the railroad the next day after Christmas, and it snowed and rained that night, and the rails was covered with sleet and ice. And it took 3 hours to get the train to the woods. Had to shovel dry sand on the rails at about every grade. Well, they earned their money that day, sure. We got a letter and photos from Bird and them when yours came. They have a fine-looking kid. Bird is working at Ferrysboro this winter, helping to build a large dump scow of steel. He has got a young man or boy doing chores, and Warren helps. And I guess Em looks after the milking mostly. Say, I do not think the winters are any worse here than at our place. Of course, the house is warm and the wood good, but so far it's not been cold. In fact, a good part of the time, thawing daytimes are raining. In fact, rather nice winter weather. No sleighing yet. I believe your mother feels better than for several years. We'll buy a horse and harness in the spring. Can't stand these long tramps anymore. Break one all up. I'm going to buy a good horse or none. If I can't get what I want here, I'll go to Chicago to the horse market. I can get anything I want there at about half that I can here. Of course, it'll cost me something to get it, keep it winters, but I must protect myself if it does cost a little extra. I have my eye on 3 here that will do nicely, but can't tell yet what they will cost. Now, about your going to the patent office, you'll find your exam only puts you on the available list. You must wait your turn. But you can't tell when that will be. Now, I believe your place is field work with transit or structural work. It will put you outdoors in a good part of the time. And take my advice. It is good. Study Spanish when you have spare time. It is a thing to do. I tell you that the man that can talk Spanish in the near future will have a big leverage over the man that can. Bye-bye, Dad.
Say, Louie, I will write a little if only to thank you for those presents. They are nice. That spoon is a dandy. How I wish I could have sent you something. But your dad said that there was nothing on the island that you would care for. I'm so glad you're coming home next summer. We ain't heard from Lenz in some time. Get a letter from Em every week. Your letter and photo received, and say that is the first photo postal I ever saw. They are getting so many new things all the time that we folks here are getting to be back numbers. Shan't know how to act if we ever get away from here. But the photo is nice. It is next to having a visit from you. We got a letter from Len and Grace. She said they was all well except the baby, and he was getting better. Len wrote that Harry's rheumatism was quite bad this winter. Had just got a new medicine. I hope it will help him. Well, time is passing, and I'm in hope to hear from Johnny next summer. Hope he will come home. Wouldn't it be nice if he could get here about the same time you do? Dominic is at the harbor. He lives in Green's house. I guess James McCormick had a big drunk after he moved. He is about as surly a fellow as I ever saw. Hope he will get some other place another year. Wish he was here to eat apples with us. From your affectionate mother.
The winter was relatively mild that year, and much of the logging got done. And Dad and Mother write about that.
So far, the winter has been fine. Only about 6 inches of snow in the woods. Solid bottom. The logs are beginning to move on ice road. Marrow has not begun to haul yet. Got some bad swamp road. Green is moving some poles and packing road. It's a fine sunny day here. Last night was the coldest of the winter, about freeze-out. This morning, no water in sight, smooth field of ice. If this weather lasts, the mail can go over the ice in a few days. The mail boat came over Saturday, the 19th, had to land mail on the west side, down at Indiantown. I was sitting down by train today for what mail is there. We did not get many letters from the boys by last mail. Probably we'll get some with the next mail. Well, we are spending as comfortable a winter as we ever did. The house warm, plenty of wood, and I keep the stove boiling. We got to go to bed about 8 o'clock and get up about 8 next morning. And you know, 8 and 8 make 16. Good enough, isn't it? But we get 3 meals all the same. I've not been to town since Christmas. Just stayed around the old shack. Well, can't think of any more. Here's Dad.
Say, it begun to rain here Friday night. Rained all night, all day Saturday till 11 at night. Then turned cold and we had quite a blizzard Sunday. But hard as it rained and blowed Saturday, it did not stop the harbor folks from coming up to Johnny Green's to a dance at night. There was over 30 that braved that storm. They danced all night, stayed till after dinner Sunday. It was the worst storm in the winter. They wanted to dance, eh? So you were thinking of getting married. Well, really, I am sorry, as it seems to me that when my boys get married, they don't belong to me any longer. And I am just selfish enough to want one. But still, if you should marry, I hope you will do well. But don't be in a hurry. There's lots of time. And I do want one boy a while yet. Mother.
Ma does speak her mind, doesn't she? Dad, too. On January 29th, we hear from him.
We are both well. There's nice winter weather. About 7 or 8 inches of snow, solid bottom, making fine sleigh. Everyone is busy now that can work and good money for woodsmen. There is some floating ice in the lake here, but all is solid down at the harbor. They were going to try to get the mail across the ice yesterday. We got a letter from Berg and them, same time yours came. Was all well there. Len was running his sewing machine, Berg was helping him. I guess wood is at a premium there. Say, you want to be looking for a package by mail coming from Montgomery Ward and Company. Your mother is sending you a birthday present. Could not get one to you for Christmas. Say, about that Washington matter, don't get impatient. Some men have to wait 2 or 3 years. You're on the available list, and your turn will come in regular order, and not sooner. Well, so for that.
The mail must have come over the ice because they are getting daily newspapers and letters from the family. You can see that the outside world so far away, the mail, is that very important. And when I first started reading these letters, I thought, oh, you know, begging for letters sounded a little bit dragging. But now, when you realize the total isolation, it was life-saving to them to hear from their children. Dad again writes February.
Well, we are well and feeling good. Nothing to bother us. Only get up and eat, fetch in some wood and water, and soak up the heat. The lake is full of ice, and we have about a foot of snow. And you bet the loggers are happy. The teams are going from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m., and all are happy, but both locomotives are broke down. And have been for more than a week. But we'll be running this week again. I went to town last Saturday with Green. Came back Sunday. Received a letter from Bird and them, same time as yours. All well there. Say, why don't you write them? They complain that you don't write to them anymore. You better do it. You have some spare time on your hands. Or does it take all of it to write to the lady at Thompsonville? Or is it Detroit? Say, how far back are you on the list at Washington? Well, bye-bye for this time. You're through.
Say, Louis, you wrote about going to New York. If you do go, you must be sure to come home sometime during the summer, as it is nearly a year since we have seen you, and it don't seem that we can wait longer. I suppose that if you stay where you are, we can look for you home in May, can't we? The ice out here comes and goes. Sunday there was just a narrow strip along the shore, but all open as far as the eye could see. But the wind changed and it came back. Now there is but little open water. The car ferry is out here by the Fox, trying to get to Northport, been in sight all day. We'll have to go faster if it gets there tonight. So you see, there must be lots of ice out there. We sent you a small birthday present by mail, sent to Montgomery for it, so be looking for it. It ought to be there next week or the last of this. The mail goes twice a week. Bye-bye from Mom.
The car ferry that she's referring to is a ferry boat with the railroad cars on with logs, and they would take them to Northport, and then obviously they have gotten stuck out there in the ice. March 10th, 1970. They're still iced in.
We've not been out to get any coal. House is warm and have lots of fuel and plenty to chew. What more do we want? No kids to make life miserable. Nothing but a cat to bother your mother. Say, did you get that package from Montgomery Ward and Company? Sent you about the 10th of last month. I had it insured. And if you don't get it soon, I'll have it forwarded here. It is a gentleman's set for air and general polishing. The weather here is fine, and have not had more than a foot of snow, but I never saw finer sleigh. You bet the Lord that move. Green has his stuff all in, and so is Mom. The company is working every man that they can get and want 100 more. The diphtheria is at the harbor. Raymond was the first that came down with it. Got it at Cross Village. He has a mail contract this winter. Got letters from the boys a short time ago, all well there. Well, you begin to find out what it costs to live in such places as New York. It is worse than Washington. That is the dearest city to live in this continent. You will find that they all gauge your income and then go after it. And a man that saves much is a dandy after his clothing and wash bills are paid. That is where field work comes in. It don't cost half too much to live in a field than it does in them towns. Of course, you see a lot of new things, but look out for the cons. Boy, they will pull your leg hard, and it just suits them to get a fresh fish. Say, it's fine weather here. Of course, the lake is full of ice, as far as can be seen from here, but we see the Northport car ferry often plowing through the ice fields. I see by the Frankfurt paper that the F&A boats are badly knocked out. They have a lot of trouble with their screws smashing up. Well, let us hear from you as often as you can, Dad.
Well, I will write a few words with regard to your coming here this spring. If you should go to Washington before the 15th of next month, I don't think that you could get here, as the boats don't commence running before that time, and the mail won't cross the ice much longer. Mrs. Green told me yesterday that it didn't generally cross after the 15th or 20th, and then there is about a month that we won't get much outside news. It is thawing fast today, but I guess we will have more cold weather. Last year we came on the first boat, got here April 13th. The year before it was the 20th, and 3 years ago it was May 2nd before the light commenced running. But it seems a long time to wait till next fall before seeing you, but we may have to, Mom.
I'm going to let our readers rest a few minutes. This has taken a little longer than we had judged, and I'm just wondering how much longer you're willing to sit here and listen to some more letters. Are you? No? Okay. Shall we go on? All right. We could probably skip a few if you want. How we can terminate without, yeah. This is a picture of a logging camp. That's a big corker in the middle of the rails. I don't know whether you can gauge the size of whether it's a narrow gauge railroad, probably. because the porker looks awfully big to be in the middle. He's probably going to be dinner for the lumber camp soon. What have I done here? I've put two together. Right. All right.
Take one out. And I'll tell you what you want. Look at back it up. You want that? It doesn't look as though I can see this here. Okay, there's the porker. Oh, I see it now. Yeah, sorry. Okay. This is how they brought the logs out in the winter on the sleigh. It was a lot easier because I could just, roll them on the hard ground.
These are the big wheels we saw this afternoon. They had them over in High Island, but the House of David people did not use them. That's called skidding. They were skidding the logs. They brought them out that way. The big wheels could go over the ground very easily and keep the logs raised, I found out this afternoon, so they didn't cause friction and fires. This is a light from the Lighthouse, one of the early ones. This is from Presque Isle, and it's a Fresnel lens. This is the lens, the kind of light we had down at the south end of the island. This had to be cleaned. It had no dust on the lens. The lighthouse itself had to be spotless at all times. That's part of the instructions to lighthouse keepers. They were to keep it in excellent shape, inside and outside bedrooms and so forth, so the wives were part of the whole life there. Intoxication was strictly forbidden. They were reported to the inspector if someone was found intoxicated on duty, which meant almost immediate dismissal. They were to wear uniforms at all times. They had a work uniform when they were doing the cleaning and so forth. Special aprons they had to wear when they cleaned the lenses. And they had their list of supplies were of the greatest. The wonderful china, 12 soup platters, the best linens, and so forth. So although it was a pretty isolated and lonely life at many times, they were supplied with the very best of china and beds and chairs and desks and so on and so forth. This is just a list of the log. This is an example of a log that they used to keep. They had to sign the log at sunrise, noon, and sunset, showing what the wind was doing and the weather in general. I believe we had rain here at sunrise, we had rain at noon, and then it was snowing at night. This was February the 2nd. Oh, and I'll just back up a minute. You see the yes, 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 that is, are all the buildings thoroughly clean? Yes. Are the station premises neat and well kept? Yes. Is the apparatus in good condition? Yes. This had to be reported every day. And again, this shows, this is where we have the wind, and it's very cold, the wind from the northwest and so forth. And then, of course, the wind dies down at sunset. And again, is the house thoroughly clean? Is the house in good repair? Is the apparatus in good condition? How many people are they on the premises, including the keeper, and what men worked there and why, and so forth. This is the HAC, life-saving service. There was a catalog from the from Chicago Uniform Company, authorized. Again, these are the caps, very handsome, that they wore. So it was a very rigorous service and rules right down to almost brushing your teeth. I didn't read the fine print, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was in there too. This is just a list of supplies. I'm sorry, it's kind of spotted and you can't see it, but it shows that they were very well supplied. However, as anything wore out, nothing could be thrown away. They had to keep track of I mean, if a dish was broken, they had to save the broken pieces and account for it. In other words, make sure no one went off with any of the goods down there. Again, the lighthouse and sort of the loneliness of the light living there. And are my readers ready?
We think that perhaps we better cut it.
Whatever you want to do.
Start at April 11th, 1909, last year.
The last year, okay. Well, let me just tell a little bit about what happened in between. 1909, the last letters that they wrote were in the spring of 1907. 1907 and 1908 were relatively good years, and then in the summer of 1908 they had terrible fires all over this Northland, and smoke covered the island, and it would necessitated that they keep the foghorn going for a month or so on end. It resulted in coal dust just getting into everything, and of course they had to keep everything clean, so it was a pretty difficult time. Fortunately, the railroad, the lumbering people kept men on guard on the rails and kept the smokestacks covered so that this island did not have any fires, but it was pretty devastating over the rest of the Northland. So that gave them a very mild fall. The smoke kept the atmosphere very mild. So they go home. They go home in December, and in spring of 1909, they came back to the island, mostly looking towards this is their very last stint, and just get the inspection and get the place cleaned up, and then let's take off. And so we start in 1909 in the spring.
Well, Louis, we got to the island all right. Slipped over between storms. Had a fine passage. Found everything okay. Nice pile of wood for the next year. We got here Friday the 9th. It was cold on the road. Some heavy snowdrifts, but Francie came through in good shape. It had been so cold I could not work the hand pump, so I had to wait. We'll try it tomorrow, if it's not too cold. Glass showed 18 degrees above zero this morning. Barometer stood at 29.90 inches for fair weather. Well, we left all well at home. Jake was bad and says he can't get around it, and he is very fat. Mark's family are all well, and they are a lively bunch, 12 of them. Harry is about as usual, lame in his ankles, but keeps pegging along. Thinks them old cows would starve or dry up if he was not there to milk and feed. Well, guess I'll give your mother a chance. Yours, Dad.
Well, Louis, we are here again. Had our usual luck getting here. Left Nunica Monday morning, stayed at Clarissa's that night. Left there Tuesday morning. Had a 40-minute wait at White Cloud and a 6-hour wait Traverse. Got to Charlevoix about 10 in the evening. The next day, the wind blowed something fierce so that the boat did not get to the island till Thursday noon. Then the livery man was gone to camp with his team, so we had to stay there till Friday morning. But we got here at last, found everything all right. We came on the 4th trip that the Beaver made, but there was no other boats running yet, so we are in time. Ain't started the light yet, but will soon. Say, when we got to Charlevoix, it was raining hard and blowing a gale. The hacks was so full that your dad could not get his feet in. He stood on the top step, but got his head in. There was one man behind him that stood on the bottom step, got his arms around your dad and hung on. There was windows blown in and chimneys and smokestacks blown down, and I should have gone with the rest if your dad had not hung on to me. Well, say my ride from the harbor was almost too much for me. My back is bad, but I think it will be better soon. I certainly hope so, or I can't hardly get around. Seems awful quiet here after being down home with such a house full for so long. But the kids came tonight and Dominic has gone after his folks, so I guess it won't be still much longer. Say, don't think of going any farther from home than you are now. As long as I live, I like to think that if either of us was very sick, you could get home. Right soon.
And Dad, on the 24th of April, says that the weather is still very cold.
Thought I'd write you a little. Well, your mother is feeling some better. Begins to think about cleaning house. And I've been at the woodwork in the kitchen today. Have not heard from home since we got here. Well, how are you coming? We have not done anything yet, but the big cleanup has been too cold. Freezes hard every night. Froze nearly 1 inch on the rain barrels last night. Had to make a fire in the boiler house ark at midnight. Thought the pipes would freeze. Dominic has his boat nearly done. Looks fine. I'm feeling pretty well. Hope you have better weather down there. Well, we'll give your mother a chance. Yours truly, Dad.
Well, we are both of us better than when we was when we left home. I suppose that you are coming out here to help us move, are you not? I have tried to make Dad think that we had better stay here till the 1st of September, but he thinks that we had better not wait. Well, I don't care how soon we go, but one thing is sure, I am not going to live in with Spen's folks. I mean not in the family, with them. I am afraid that we are missing it in leaving the Lighthouse service. Still, perhaps it is all for the best. We are not as well as we was a few years ago, and I'm tired of living in these isolated places, and shall be glad to get somewhere that we can see someone besides the Lighthouse folks. Say, Mrs. Bonner told me that Cap Miller got to drinking when he was in Charlevoix last summer, and that was the reason he didn't come to the island. She got him home as soon as she could, and Bonner's folks did not know whether he was going to move there in the spring or not. Have you heard anything about it? Well, the kids are squalling, and I will close. Mom.
Still cold on May 2nd. Dad writes,
Say, do you know the summer birds are very sorry that they left the sunny South early? Well, it has snowed and rained and froze about all the time since we came up here. The woods is full of snow now. 6 or 8 inches was blown off where the wind got a lick at it. Fire and signal about all the time. Well, we got another letter from John. He is well and not married. Says he will be out in July if he can get water enough to wash out his dumps. The reason he did not come out last year, there was no water to wash with, and he could not leave. He is yet at Hot Springs, about 10 miles out in the mountains. Letters there will reach him all right. Of course, things go on here as usual, but we cannot get a chance to fix things up much yet. But we are hoping for some fair weather soon. Yours truly, Dad.
still cold, the middle of the month.
Your mother is a little better. She is now figuring on washing old carpets. Got them ripped up. Was heavy rain last night. Got plenty of water to wash with. Well, the fit comes regular every year. Can't help it. About like the itch. Well, no bud started yet. Grass just beginning to show green a little. A few of the wildflowers are beginning to come out in the woods, and the leeks are here with a rush, about 8 inches high. No grain sowed here yet. No spuds, plants, or any garden truck in yet. The loggers have moved to number 5 camp this week. They're running up there with the trains. Say, Sterling is here, boss of the logging again. They're running 2 engines and trains now on the road. I will have most of the duffel packed by the time you get here, and it's possible John will be there to come up here with you. He wrote he would be here in June or July, but I think he'll stop at Seattle to look at the exposition. Well, I'll let up and let Mother have a chance. Yours truly.
I think that if you get here by the 28th or 29th, we can get all the packing done in time to go by the 1st of August. Now be sure to let me know what time you will be here and whether you will stop at home on your way, as I'm anxious to know. We will have the small things all packed, and it won't take too long to pack the larger stuff. Dad expects to get C.C. Allers to move the things. It will be cheaper and perhaps with less danger of breaking the things. I will send you Johnny's letter, but send it back to me, as if he don't come home, I would like to keep it.
Well, May 30th, Dad says.
Well, everything moves along fairly good. Inspector Chief Clerk Picking was here last week, feeling good. We had a nice little visit. I like the new inspector. He's a great, big, good-natured Irishman. Seems to be a rather jolly dog. The company has moved to the new number 5 camp over at Millard Marsh. Got some fine camps. Stevens says that it is the best camp to build. They put out 1 million foot of logs at Iron Ore Bay and are now towing them away. The Doty boys are here stripping off their ties and posts. Finished loading a cargo yesterday on the schooner Simmons. We have not heard from home in over 2 weeks. Guess they're busy some since the rain and snow stopped. It is getting fairly dry here now, and the glass has gone up to between 50 and 60. How is that for heat? Grass has got up big enough so the horses can get a bite, and the whitefish are beginning to come on. We've been eating them for a week, and they're good. Ned has a notion of going out to the Canadian Northwest, where Ed Flanders is, and take a look. Well, I'll give your mother a chance today.
Well, for want of something better to say, I will tell you about the time Pidgey and Mary had yesterday. Well, it seems that the children got to quarreling, and Andrew bit Violet. Mary says he has got quite a notion of doing that, and Violet slapped him. The first I heard was Pidgey swearing like a trooper. The next thing, she went up to Mary's, and I wish you could have heard them both talking at once and swearing worse than a drunken sailor. The next thing, the dishes begun to fly, and Mary says, "Get out of my house, damn you." Oh, they had a picnic, you bet. Mary came to the door after a little. She said she supposed I heard the fuss, but there was no damn old Irish woman coming in her house and scare her. Pidgey came in and told me Mary was worse than her damn old mother. Today they don't speak.
Yeah, you might call it cabin fever, I guess. This is a raft with the bark on, and that's the Rouse Simmons in the background. Those are probably the Doty boys. And they're taking their bark out there. They stripped the bark because that was used for tanning. And then the logs were used, I heard this afternoon, some for stakes for the vineyards down in southern Michigan. And I guess we have cedar in our library, too. June 7th, things are quieted down in our happy little home down in the South End. And Dad writes,
I was downtown last week, had to stay 3 days. The old scrap heap on the railroad went haywire. Collapsed 15 flues. Just got in and she fell down. Say, there's a dandy railroad and a dandy crowd running her. Well, no one got scalded. I got home by gasoline launch. Bissell came up after suckers to Cheyenne Bay. Brought me to her dock. Have not heard from John again. Yours, Dad.
well, whether or not Johnny comes is still up in the air. But then, on July 12th, we hear,
Well, Louis, John is here. He was on the road 32 days. He telegraphed ahead from St. Paul. That gave your mother a chance to get her second win, and she stood the meeting well.
Johnny has changed a lot since he went away. But 20 years is a long time. And we have all changed in that time. He looks more like your Uncle Ned than he used to. I never thought he looked any like Ned till now. But he makes me think of him every time I look at him. He says he's going back to Alaska this fall.
We're in the usual good health. Has started to pack some. Got the canned fruit packed. I don't know yet who is to take my place, but I think it will be Mary's father. Everything goes after the old style. Say, the railroad now comes to the Millard Marsh where you got the cranberries last year. It won't be so far to tow it over here. You want to be on the train by 12:30 p.m. as they'd come early. Wes is running a lever now. Well, bye-bye. This will be the last till we see you.
and that's the last of our letters from the south end of Beaver Island. Thank you. I think we need their throats aren't dry tonight, I don't know. Jerry, can we have a mic? There you go, boom.
We got Sherry.